Good afternoon, folks. Welcome back to some more Unreal Engine development and Fabrica Espace, or Espace, depending on how you look at it. And today we are going to look at our storage container. We kind of started it last night, but not a lot. And this morning I went into Blender, made a little thing, basically a box, textured it, and that was about it really. So with that in mind, what we can do is bring this in then so we'll import that. Okay, whatever. And this is the material, I believe, because that wasn't there before. So we need to bring in materials. So what I'll do is I shall actually put this in a new folder and call it storage container. Then we shall put that in there, and we shall put that in there, and then we shall drag in our textures. So our textures should be, I've got a folder here with them. And here we go. Here they are. Okay, so we can now rename this. We'll call it my storage container. Open it up. And we can delete that. We can drag this in, and that goes into the base color. We can drag the normal in, and that goes into the normal. These were created in Substance Painter, by the way. And this gives us our occlusion, roughness, and metallic. So the first one is occlusion, then it's roughness, and then metallic. Okay, so we can save that. And now you can see we have our little storage box thing. It's just a visual, I'll let you see, it's just a visual representation. It's just got an in and an out really, which I have blackened out because these will be covered with a plane anyway. So, you know. We can make a better job of that at a later date, basically. But fundamentally, that's what we want. And then, if we go into buildings and we come into storage, right, and we look at the viewport, we've taken out the box. So what we can do now is add that back in, wherever that was. It should have been in models, storage container, and we basically drag that in, and it's a bit on the small side. Won't worry too much about that, mind you. Right, so what we'll do is we'll scale it, and then we shall re-import it so that we don't need to scale it. If you get my gist. So we might need like a 2.5, then 2.5. Might actually need more than that. 2.5. We may have to go with a 3. Yeah, 3 might do us. Yeah, that'll do. Right. So we can save that, and then we'll drop it down to 1. I don't know why it's got that rotation on it. Well, probably because it's we'll just leave it where it is. Right, but we'll take away we'll spin this in the load. Okay, so what we'll do now is we shall go to this model. We'll go to the input settings, and we shall scale it by a factor of 3, and then spin it by 90. Right, then we'll re-import it, and now if we go to storage, we're back to where we were. Right, so that is that. The next thing is we need to move position output and we should really be moving it and we need the arrow as well. Right, so that is going to spin by 180. Okay, and our position output is going to spin by 180. Okay, and we'll change that a bit. We'll move that to there, kind of into the center. It doesn't really matter about the position of this, but we'll just move it here anyway, just to keep it kind of right. Then what we'll do is we shall move our position input to here, into the center. In fact, you know what we could do? We could actually drag it like to there. And then we could do the same for like the pause output. Right. So that should be us set, kinda. Right. Now, we are going to probably have to make a change to this, where we change the mesh to not have the platform mesh. Or we probably need to do the building mesh for this one. Right, but either way, it's fine. We shall work on it. So if we save that, and we now go into the event graph, and it's allowed to do all that. We're not allowed to process. If we transfer the item, it isn't going into here. It's basically going straight to the output, right? So we can do either one of two things here. The event transfer right, we've got an item coming in. So this is it here. We are going to check, we probably won't check the input, but we'll check the output to see if the output's full. Right, but the output in a storage container is going to be a lot. Okay. But this isn't going to be input. This is going to be comp output. All right. And this is supply. Well, that's interesting. So that's get S output. Okay. And then we are basically going to do the same thing, except I think the best thing here is, I think we'll write a function, add product to output. Okay, and it's going to have that. And it's going to be, well, let's just call it product. Right? And it's going to be an E item. So now that we know that we're passing an item in, we're going to add it to comp output, okay? So we're going to get comp output. We're going to need a couple of local variables here. So we're going to have exists. This means that it exists in our output, right? So basically the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to say, yeah, we're going to get a component output, then we're going to get S output, then we're going to say for each then we're going to put our exists in. We're going to say set exists to false when we start this, right? And then off our element here, we're going to break it. And then we're going to say this item here equals this item here. Okay, and if that, we branch that, and in fact this here is going to be a for each with break. So we can delete that, we can pop this back in here. Then we can plug that back in there. Then this goes up. We're going to do that. Then we're going to straighten that connection. Okay. So if this is true, then we're going to set our exists to true. Right, that's the first thing we're going to do. And then we're going to get this again. And we're going to set array element. Okay, so we're going to set this array element, and the index is going to be that index, and then we are going to make that we're going to drag this down a bit. Then we are going to say quantity plus 1. And then our item is going to go in here. Okay. And then we're going to go straight to here. Then we're going to double click on this one and move this one to over here. Okay. So that's going to take care of if we've already got this item in our output. Okay. Now, the next issue here is if we don't have it. So in here we go to completed, right? And then we're going to do a branch. and we're going to branch on our exists. Okay, if it's true, we do nothing because we've added it. But if it's false, we add a new thing to this. Right, we basically add a new item. So we get this again. Right, I'll move this out of the way a bit. So we add item. And whether we add or add unique doesn't really matter, because it is going to be unique because we didn't find it. Right, so that's all cool. And the next thing we do is we make this structure, and the quantity is going to be 1, and the item is going to be coming from here. Right, so let me explain this, right? In the storage container, we don't really care about the input, okay? We only care about the output, because basically once it goes into the storage container, the only thing you can do with it is output it, right? Now, whether that's by hand or by automatically adding a conveyor belt is neither here nor there, right? So fundamentally, item comes in. If that item already exists in the output array, then we basically add 1 to the quantity. If it doesn't exist, we add a new array item and make the quantity 1, and the new array item is of the product type that we just added, okay? So if we now go back to our event graph, right, this isn't going to check comp input, it's going to check comp output, right? But so basically for this part, we can delete it, and we can say add product to output. That goes in there, and we're done. Okay, the only thing we need to do is change this part here, which we're not going to do yet, because we'll need to set up a different couple of things for that, but it's going to be comp output. I'm going to leave it there for now, just as a reference point. In fact, the better thing to do here would be to check this one. I don't actually know what it's called. Is output full? Right, so there we go. So we can delete that, we can delete that, and if we need to, we can join these two together. We can say if that is true and not that is true, then we can basically go to here. But for the moment, that'll do us. We need to, so it's not doing the processing, that's cut out, right? It still needs to do that, and it still needs to do that. And don't think this is going to make any difference, and it's not a minor. So in here, so we're going to have to add a building type, right? So that's fine, we can do that. If we go building type, we can go new, and we can say storage container. Okay, we can save that, and we need to add it to our other places. That use it, which is in here. Okay, so it's going to be in our DT buildings here, so we're going to add, and the row name is going to be storage container. Right, and it's going to be storage space container, and it's going to be that, and storage, we haven't got an image for it yet. We have got a static mesh for it, which is storage, apparently not. Well, we have, but I don't know what I've called it, so we're going to check to see what we called it. Storage container, so it's called storage. So we'll rename this to SM underscore then capital and container. So the static mesh now becomes storage container. Okay, starter workers. Now we're going to have to add a cost for this. So we'll add 2 costs. So it's going to be, let's say, iron sheet, and it's going to cost you 50, right? And then it's going to cost you, we can do this later, right? But we'll just say copper sheet for now, because I know we've got them in storage when we start the game, so it should allow us to build it. Okay. So there we go. We do need some kind of an image for this, actually, because we need something to come up on screen when we make it a bubble again, right? So from that point, we should be able to start this. I'll tell you what we'll do, we'll stop it just now and we'll do a save all. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have missed something here. Right, we can continue that. Now, let's have a look if we've got a bubble. We have no bubble. No bubble. Okay. So why is that? Good question. Ah, okay. There's one setting here, player can build. Save that. Missed that one. Okay. And there is our bubble. And there we go. And now the interesting part, I'm going to make this like a white spaceshipy type colour, I believe. Let me just check. Yeah. Okay. Right, so what we'll do is we'll test it. Okay, now the way we're going to have to probably test it is if we can see the component output. Right, so there's nothing in there now, right? So let's see if we can actually build something here. Or let's see if we can connect it up and if it all works. Which I must admit would be pretty nice if it worked first time off the bat. Right. So we can try this. Well, it's doing something. Let's see what happens here in the output. And we've got something. Yep, we've definitely got something. And there we go. It's loading up. Okay. Now, the really interesting part would be if I've done this right, okay, and if it's as modular as I think it is, right? I should be able to move this to here, do another one of these, join that to there, join that to there, then do this, move this down a bit, Then if we do a not, okay, in fact, hang on a second, we don't do that at all. This is going to do something different. Right, we're going to need to think about this one. This one is going to be slightly different from the others. Right. This one is going to be, yes, it's going to be that, right? Right, but this is going to have to fire. It can't fire on the output. Right. So this is a bit of a bummer. So if the output is full, then it was the stop process thing. So basically these, it's not these. Right, so what we should do is event stop processing, and that should go in there, and then it should be restart processing for this event restart processing. Right, basically why I'm doing this is the other way around, is because for the other buildings it's when the input becomes full that we stop the supply, right? But in the storage box container, in the storage containers thing, it's when the output becomes full, right? Because the input's never used, okay? So if I've stuck to the rules here, we should actually be able to make our container and then basically once it hits 10, which we're going to change, we're going to have to change that. It's going to have to come from a setting within the buildings. We're going to have a storage capacity for each building, or we could have it for each item. It really doesn't matter which one I do. So it shouldn't be long before this thing gets switched off. But it doesn't seem to be getting switched off. So let's stop that just now. And it might not be that. Well, I mean, we're certainly not checking this anyway. Right, so basically what we need to do here is do that, or not do that, and if we have a look at our refiner as our example, we can see how we do this on process, right? Check comp, that's the comp input, and then in here we check the comp output, right? So we copy that, we go back to our storage, then we remove that and paste that. Okay. Grr. Save that. Now we can press play. Continue. We should have saved that, but we didn't. Never mind. We can do that. Then make our storage thing. Click on that. And the interesting thing that we're going to have to do here is we're going to have to set up another details thing. Right, so we've got our thing, there we do. We're going to do our conveyor belt now. Have to wait till this becomes active. That's active now. This thing's been an ass. That's weird, when it actually activated, it deactivated. Interesting. I wonder if it'll activate when it actually... No, it's going. Yep. There we go, it stopped. Perfect. I think that actually did it the wrong way round. Yeah. But I don't know why I stopped that. But it is working, so that's perfect. Okay. So the next thing that we need to do is we're going to delete the processing. Don't need it. And we don't want to confuse matters, so we'll take that out. Then we shall take those out. Now we do want those. And we do want that. We're actually going to have another one of these called remove output spline. Right. So that's what we'll do just now. So in actual fact, we'll go to interfaces. No, we won't. We'll go to class settings here. Okay, we'll go to base buildings instead then. We'll look at class settings and we shall look for BPI building. And we shall add another one. Remove output spline ref. Okay. Save that. We're not using it yet, but it's going to be useful when we do need to do it. So we did that first. Everything's working up until now. Right. So what we should be able to do, in theory, is we should be able to build a miner. Then we should be able to build a storage container. Then we should be able to build a refiner. In fact, we didn't even need to do that. We could have just joined it onto the warehouse, even though the warehouse isn't actually something at the moment. But in the meantime, we can spin this around. And we're going to be spinning this around. And let's see if our comp output works. So we build here. Once this is active, here we go. Right, so that starts going. And now what we can do is we can do conveyor from here oh, look at that. Perfect. Perfecto. So the storage container is working absolutely perfectly. Hey Kofi, how you doing, mate? Look, I've just made a storage container. Right, so if it ain't connected, it doesn't put anything in, but it just stores the product, right? But if it is connected, it does. Right, so rather than have this warehouse thing, which I suppose you could still have in a way, we could have that as a later building that costs a lot to build, and like the storage in it is incredible, right? But we can also have like a storage box that stores still a lot, but not as many as the warehouse, right? So the only thing we've got to do now is make like a thing for this. right? So it's not going to have workers, it's not going to have inputs or outputs, it's just going to have like the same as the inventory. So it's just going to have like this thing here. So yeah. And in fact, this is fine, right? But we're now going to need a way to transfer this into your actual inventory, right? Because this isn't going to go straight into an inventory. I mean, that's how we're using it right now, but we're going to obviously change that because that's not the way it's going to work. Okay. So we can stop that for now. How are you anyway, Kofi? I'm good today. How are you? I'm going to go and grab a cigarette. I shall be back in 2 minutes. I won't be long at all. And then we'll get right back to this. Okay, we're back. Now, Kofi, what what do you think the next product should be? My thoughts were going to be copper pipes. I'm thinking of simple things for me that I can do in Blender without any trouble, that isn't going to take me a week and a half. Right? So, and in fact, would you like to see me doing that when I do it? I mean, it's going to be pretty simple, but so the thing is here that we need to go back into our buildings, which is here, and we're going to need to add variables to our struct, right? So this is our struct, and we're going to have to add a couple of things here. So we're going to say input capacity, right? And that is going to be an integer, and then we're going to have an output capacity, right? And that means that when we actually load these in, we can actually fill out what the capacities are for each of the different buildings rather than having a generic one, right? So when we build it, we can load this into the input component and the output component. And then, so let's say our buildings, our standard buildings, have an input and output capacity of 20 or 25, right? Well, we can set this up here. In fact, let's just do that, right? So we can go to the miner. It hasn't got an input capacity. So let's say we had an output capacity of 100 for the miner, right? But for the refiner, it's 25, 25, right? Then for the smelter, same thing, 25, 25. And fabricator, exactly the same, 25, 25. Then the researcher is only input, so we can say like 5 for that. Then for the metalworks, we'll say 25, 25. And finally for our storage, we can make that, let's say 500. Okay. And that's going to work just fine. So the thing we need to do now is when we actually build a building, which is done in placement, right? So if we look at placement and this one, you'll notice it spawns this actor. And we're going to delete this. Right, so we remove the costs, we remove item from inventory, we cancel buildings, we set the selected item to nothing, and then we do that, right? So it's actually going to have to be in the begin play for each of these, but it actually doesn't, right? It actually doesn't. What we can actually do is we can put it in base building. The problem is, of course, that if we put it in base building, we don't know what type of building it is unless we do a switch, which we don't really want to do, but we're doing it here anyway, and that's when it's clicked on. Right? So we could do it here. But then again, yeah, let's just do it in here, right? And we'll test it. We'll test it in the storage container, right? So we shall straighten both of these up. Okay. We'll come up here. We'll go to begin play. And we're not going to, yeah, we are going to do building. We're going to get a building type. Okay. Have we got the building name, perchance? I don't think so. And this is going to change to storage container. So we don't need the building type because we've already got it, but well, it's already there. So what we can do is data, well, we can't do it from there, but we'll do it in a minute. Data table, get data table row, right? So we convert that directly. Okay, and this is going to be from menu buildings, and the out row we break it, and the output capacity, so we're going to get comp output And let's have a look at comp output and see where that value is, and it's the storage limit. Okay. So we go back to our storage and storage, set storage limit. Okay. And for this one, it's the so in theory here, we only need one value, but we could change the comp output. No, that's right, because we've got a comp input, right? So if we need to do the comp input, we do it from here, right? So we set 2 from anywhere else, right? It's just the fact that we don't actually use this. So I'm going to add a breakpoint, then I'll compile it, right? Press play, we'll continue, and then all we need to do is put down our storage thing. And yeah, for whatever reason it didn't get to that. Add breakpoint. So we'll do that again. So it did that. So whatever it is, it's not getting this row name. So it's storage container, right? So this is the building type. So what we need to do is we need to stop that. Then we need to go to the building types, right? So if we go to e-building type, we are actually going to have a space there. And we're going to hit save. Okay. And now when we press play, it should work. So let's have a look. Go there. We get the material, and that's storage container. Step over. Right, so that didn't work. So let's have a look. Right, so we're getting the name, we're setting it to storage container with no spaces, right? And in DT, we need data table menu building. We need it with no spaces, okay? right? So in actual fact, our previous DT menu buildings, or that is correct, but our DT building, where the hell is it? Right, it's not there. Right, so the row name is that with no spaces. Okay. Storage container. So we saved that. Now, there was no reason why this didn't, I don't understand why this actually didn't work the first time round, because it should have. So we shall try it again. So we set material, step over, we're getting storage container, so that is definitely, okay, right, I understand it now. It doesn't do that. What we want to do is to string, and that gives us a user-friendly name, which is storage container with no spaces, and then we plug it in there. Okay. So step over, and there we go. And this should be 10 at the moment, and this value should be 10. What? Well, that's kind of weird. Actually, I may know why that is. It's maybe EMS. It's the saving thing, doing its saving things. Right. Now in here, if we come down, where's our storage? Okay, and comp output, it's not got it to show us. So we're going to have to stop this again, and then we're going to have to click on that. Then we're going to have to save that. Okay. So we resume that. That's fine. We can resume that. And where's my storage? There, it's there. So if we come down to comp output, it's set to 500. There we go. So that's perfect. Yeah, that's good. So we basically need to add this code to everywhere. But the way we could do it, we can't really do it that way. Damn it. I was thinking putting this on a function, then adding the function to the base building, but I can't really do that because some of the things don't have inputs and some of them don't have outputs, right? Like, they don't have inputs and outputs by default because that kind of doesn't make any sense. But I mean, I can just copy this code. So what we could actually do is create a custom event. Add custom event. Right, and what we could say is set input output capacity. Okay, and then here we can just do that, and what we could do is hook this up here, right? Then we can basically say set input output capacity. Put it here. Then what we can do is just basically copy this. In fact, what we'll do is we shall do take all these off basically. We've got one more actual thing to do here. Right, we can do comp input. Right, so the thing we're going to actually do here is we're going to get this, right? And then we're going to do a sequence. Okay. Then for this, we're going to say is valid. Join this up here, and if we join this up here, we can set storage limit. Okay. So we're only going to set these if they're valid. Otherwise, we're not going to set them. Right? So this is going to work for all the buildings, right? Now that we've stuck this as valid in, and we're not going to get any silly errors coming out. So basically we're going to do the same thing again. So we're going to get the comp output, and we're going to see is valid. This is actually going to go in here. Then this is going to go here. And then we can set this up here. And if it is valid, we go in there. Okay, and then we straighten this connection to there. And then we drag this down a bit. And we join that there. Okay, so that's going to take care of all possibilities. And then we can just basically copy that across into both, to all of our blueprints. So we can save that. We can copy this. Okay. Then we can go into our miner. Let's go into each of our buildings in turn. So if we go into our fabricator, okay, we can paste that. Apparently we can't. Right, so we can go back to our storage. Can we do this? We can copy this, I think. Right, so go back to our fabricator. Yep, that's fine. Okay. And then we can set input output capacity. Save that. Go into our metalworks. Right, paste that in. Then we can say set input output capacity. Save that. Go to our miner. Do exactly the same thing again. Paste that. And we can set input output capacity. Not a very glamorous job, this, is it? So we did the minor, and we need to do the minor. Move this up a bit. Paste that. Having said that, it's not exactly a difficult one, you know, there's not a lot of like having to do loads of different, like swapping pins about, doing all sorts of weird stuff to every single one, so it's not that big of a deal really. Going by how we'd got how fast we got the storage thing working, I'm quite happy with doing this for this one thing. I've did a heck of a lot of worse. For example, in my previous game I had to rewrite the whole thing, and I believe it took me, it was either 1 week or 2 weeks, can't remember which, but it was one of the two. And it wasn't really, let's say it wasn't a matter of rewriting it, it was basically copy and pasting every single part of it from one project into another. Okay, so if we get any errors like this, we're just going to have to basically delete, which is fine. Okay, so that was the research station, and we've obviously got the smelter to do. So we can paste that in there. And at the end of this, set input output capacity. Save that. And on that, guys, I think I'm going to stop the stream. Not too many people watching. I've got a couple of things to do that need doing, so I shall be back with you at 8 PM Central. And if you've enjoyed the stream, check the description for my Discord, hit the subscribe button. There's also a link to my previous game on Steam and Patreon. So thank you for joining, and I'll catch you all at 8 o'clock tonight. Bye bye for now.